their feet now firmly planted in South Africa, BMW had to figure out a way to convince an obsessed South African public to spend their hard-earned rands on these little German cars. And boy, did they. So while the other car guys concentrated on the bottom line, BMW decided wisely to focus on the racing line. Because, as BMW found out, there was nothing a South African liked better than the smell of burnt rubber and petrol in the morning. Because in South Africa, BMW knew Sundays were for church, but Saturdays were for racing.
5 Series, 3.5 litre Petone beyond a Henny van der Linden, a V6, 3 litre turbocharged, a car like the BMC.
BMW's racing pedigree was unquestionable back in the 70s. And in true South African flavor, we built serious race cars that went racing. They beat everyone and set the tone for racing BMWs and their production homologation specials going forward.
So, BMW decided to take its fledgling racing program to the racetrack.
I'm now coming from the driver's seat of the M535i Lightweight. Only 12 of these units were ever made. A real race car. Unlike the BMW 745, which was made purely to take you to the office or take you to your nearby meeting or to the boardroom, and then switched to a race car, this one was built purely to race. I mean, it's got no rear headrests, it's got no central locking, it doesn't even have aircon. It's a stripped out, striped out, Mzansi-style race car. And you know what? It moves! Dog leg, Baba! Here I am driving the BMW E12 5 Series, another car that was produced at BMW plant Roslyn, and it was very successful. In fact, it was so successful when the international market received the BMW E28 5 Series, which was around 1983, BMW plant Roslyn continued to build the E12. But they did a blended version called the BMW E12 8, derived from the E28. The only difference was it had an E28 dashboard, but the rest of the car was all E12. That carried on for another 2 years, and then afterwards, 1985, was when the E28 was officially released. Now, following the success of the BMW 5 Series in South Africa, there's another story that's worth telling. And you know what? This guy here can tell us that story. His name is Jeff Goddard, vehicle test engineer in South Africa at BMW. In fact, he went on to become the head of vehicle test operations at BMW South Africa. This man here made magic between the 80s and 90s for BMW. In fact, all he did changed the game forever.
Jeff Goddard is on the third row of the grid. He's the chief tester for BMW here in South Africa of the motor cars, knows the thing about cars and tyres and performance and road holding. Jeff is there in car number 10, another one of the Winfield BMWs.
Jeff Goddard, I think we should start from the beginning.
My first involvement with BMW was as a result of me driving a 530 in the Winds 1000 in 1979. There were 3 M1s that came over with their respective teams. We were asked to join the BMW Motorsport festivities. There I met a person, I still can't recall the person to this day, and he said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm a vehicle test engineer." And he said, "Oh, I thought you came from UK to drive the car." No, I didn't. And he said, "I just want to take your details, and somebody from BMW, when the time comes, I'll approach you." in early 1982, I got a phone call to say I must come for an interview at BMW.
In Roslyn?
In Roslyn. He just said, I have a note here to hire you. I said, well, interview? No, I must hire you. So, okay,
You're hired.
I'll take the job.
And that's when I picked you up and gave you the works drive because you won the championship.
But we'll talk about that later.
He's really got a handful on his hands.
BMW had built racing into their DNA. And this stroke of marketing genius let customers bring the racetrack to their driveway. But what happens when the boy racers of today started turning into the middle-aged men of tomorrow? Could BMW still keep its racing credibility while turning their attention to the needs of customers needing a little more luxury on their commute to the office? Of course they could. Guys like Tony Viano in his Winfield 745i from a time when driving on the limit was just a Sunday drive and smoking was still good for you. You bet they could do it. You've watched the video. Now buy the limited edition book detailing the exceptional history of BMW in South Africa and the unique and amazing cars created here. Click on the link below to secure your copy now before they're all snapped up.